Welcome back. As we promised that we are going to go and to visit Khedive Cairo, and not only to visit it, to dive into it, to know more about its history, its background, and its present. What should we do to maintain its architecture, its features, and in the same time to keep Cairo as modern as possible? Is it right to keep Cairo modern or to leave the Khedive Cairo as is, and how to maintain this touch? You know, Egypt always has been the melting pot where all civilizations melt, but our Egyptian identity remained there. And in fact, I do have a very prominent guest who is going to tell us more about all these issues, and he is going to have a very important lecture regarding this issue, regarding balancing through cosmopolitanism, how Khedive Cairo transformed influence into identity. Well, let's welcome together my dear guest live here in the studio, Dr. Ahmed Sidqi, Urban Development and Heritage Management Consultant. Thank you very much for being with us, sir, and a very good morning.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Let's go to your lecture first,
okay,
because we want to go from the general to the specific.
Yep.
Khedive Cairo.
So about my lecture is going to be, well, the title as you mentioned right now, and it's going to be in Gezira Sports Club. The access is not limited. I mean, there is a free access through gate number 6 if you are attending and maintaining that you are attending through Villa Major, which is the cultural hub inside the Gezira Club, through gate number 6, which is the southern part of Hassan Sabri Street. And everybody is welcome on the Tuesday, the day after tomorrow, yes, on the 18th of November. Yep. And it's going to be at 6:30 p.m.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much for allowing me to just
to continue with exploring how Khedive Cairo emerged not merely as a city shaped by foreign influence, but as a bold cultural response. Let me have this kind of, I'm not going to say mix, but interaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. Well, first of all, it has never developed or evolved in one part of its history by only the Europeans. In fact, it was a dream of the ruler of Egypt, the Khedive himself, which is Khedive Ismail, as you know. So everybody is aware of the inauguration of Canal Suez, and everybody got to be aware that we are changing, taking off the gown of the medieval gown and put on the modern. And the modern gown during the time was the European in image and shape and everything. So that's why we had to have this kind of form and image. At the end of the day, like in Istanbul, for example, the Caliph is ruling from Topkapi, and he just shifted toward the Dolma Pasha. It's exactly what happened here. We left the ruling on the medieval context, which is, or the venue, which is the citadel, and we just shifted to Abdin Palace. It means, which is a version of like Buckingham Palace, that they are both built during the same time. So we're talking about Khedive, who was very much enlightened, and he wanted to just make this shift and create another Paris on the Nile. So his dream is coming true.
But you know, you are going to find critics are saying that why another Paris on the Nile? Why not a bigger Cairo or a greater Cairo on the Nile? I mean, this a mix between the European ideas and the Egyptian spirit. You are going to find people saying, why Verdi? Why an opera? Why we do not refer to our Oriental music? How this, I mean, this was controversial a little bit, contradictory a little bit.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. As I always say, that if you just have a lovely stone on your ring, and it's a diamond, for example, and then definitely it would be much brighter if you got different facets. So the more facets that you have, is the more brighter you get. So that's why we had this kind of allure by having the European phase, the Ottoman, the facet of from the Fatimid period, from whatever period. So it's in fact an addition, practically speaking. But at the end of the day, I would recall an experience of a colleague. She's from Istanbul Technical University, where I just been giving some lecture there, and she said this country needed the Abbé, which is the elder brother, to take its hand with. So that was the way of thinking and the concepts. During that time, France was the leader in intellectuality, and we wanted to just give us the hand. That's why, in order to shift from the medieval to more secular systems. So we had the French consultants, like for example, in order to build the modern army, Egyptian army, it was Suleiman the French, Suleiman al-Fransawi. And that's why we had lots of people like this, and they were French. At the end of the day, you just accepted the fact that you would need this kind of big booming in order to declare to the whole world we are an advanced country, we are a modern country. And during that time, modernism and economy was in the hand of the West, already established there. And the decline of the Ottoman Empire was quite apparent. So that's why we had no clue by just shifting our attention to any place but France. And people think that he is the one who brought France to Egypt. In fact, no. For example, Nafisa al-Bayda, her Sabil is there, and she's a wife of a Mamluk, and she communicated with Napoleon during his campaign here in order to protect the female there, because one of the languages he masters...
From 1798 to 1801.
Exactly,
Okay.
and one of the languages he spoke was French. So meaning that there were lots of merchants, there were lots of councils, and they lived in Egypt during the time, even before Khedive Ismail.
Sir, do you agree with what I said in my intro? I mean, we can all the time say that Egypt was the melting pot where all civilizations melt, but we still have our identity as Egyptians?
Exactly.
Or there are all the time ups and downs?
No.
Okay.
No, I'll tell you why. For example, in my lecture, I always say that getting even by becoming a cosmopolitan, meaning that the Italians were here, and there is some books written by even Lord Cromer. I don't like the man myself, but at the end of the day, he wrote that those people who helped the Egyptian much in order to shift it towards this secular system where the Italian, they played much in such a kind of establishment of the municipal system and all of these institutions that we are aware of and that we are still developing and using until today. So the game is like that. Those Italians were contribution, and they started even to mingle and to integrate within the social fabric, within the what they can call it, this kind of like very intense tissue of the social community in Egypt, meaning that even we have one of the great builders of the most famous mosques. He's Italian Catholic. His name is Mario Rossi.
Yeah.
So those Italians were here in Egypt contributing, intermingling and cooperating with their fellow Egyptians, even developing their skills. Like, for example, until today, if you want to fix your car, the terminology used by the technicians, they are Italians. And it's in Maruf, for example, where you can still find some traces of some families there if you go for anthropological studies. See what they did in Somalia or Ethiopia or Libya. Colonization, pure colonization.
Yeah.
So the game is different here. Here, no. It
And
was
North
different.
Africa.
In North Africa, yeah, they enslaved.
Africa.
They even, yeah, they
No,
enslaved.
I mean, here I'm not talking only about enslaving people, but about having their footprint, if I may call it this way, to have the language, for example. And this is only one of the issues. We speak purely English, colloquial Arabic, our dialect, but we were not that much influenced by the English language, despite the British occupation for 80 years, for example. But here, sir, being a cosmopolitan city, is it an advantage or a disadvantage?
Well, okay, it depends if this coming on the dispense of your own personal identity. Like, for example, when I say that there is always a threshold between the cultural rupture or the increasing the facets of your knowledge. I would speak philosophy here, general system theory here, saying that if you just have an alien and a complete system, if you pour some knowledge in the system about this ramification, it would absorb it and it would become one of it. So one of the merits of the Egyptian people that they are accepting for others, simply because not because we are smart and yes, we are. Some kind of our genetics are something like that is very extremely creative. So that's why until today the most important Arabs laureated the Nobel Prize, etc. They are Egyptians. Until today, some of the best physicians in the world, they are Egyptians. And I am not trying to just overreact or exaggerate, but the idea is that you are playing the game and you are accepting the others because you are aware of their customs and manners, etc., and you are setting the rules and you are intermingling accordingly. Until today, for example, in 1915, after the massacres committed against the Armenians, we received lots of Armenians.
Yes.
Many of them, they are speaking pure Arabic right now. I got a friend of mine, he is telling me jokes about his father because he is mocking his father not being able to speak, speaking with accent, but he is speaking Egyptian because he defined himself as Egyptian, then Armenian. I can see that this is the sum of Egypt. In fact, if you are having this kind of identity confidence, meaning that I have the pigment of my color of the identity is quite thick enough, so it won't be diluted by any others. But at the end of the day, you just have to accept the fact that you are open system and you are absorbing and communicating. Like, for example, you received the Ptolemaic. You received the Roman came imposing their forces, defeating Cleopatra, but before everything that they even shaped themselves in order to just getting accepted by pretending to be.
The Armenians, for example, what about the Armenian schools here? They do have a big part, and we mixed with it, and we benefited from it.
That's part of the game of the cosmopolitan part,
yeah.
Meaning that, for example, that the best grocery shop is Greek, winery is Cypriot, Italian, they are technicians.
This is Alexandria in specific. It's more than Egypt. I mean, since it's
more than Cairo.
More than, sorry, a bigger part. More than Cairo, because we call Cairo Egypt.
Egypt, yeah, I know that.
If you are coming from the Delta like me.
Yeah,
but anyways, when it comes to
frustrating the Alexandrian fellows.
Yes. To speak about a port like Alexandria, which is in the same time a very old city, and to take into consideration that it's a part and parcel of our history.
Alexandria is a navel of westernization that is Europeanization. From El Manshia Square, this is the influx of the Europeanization, not only in Egypt, in the whole Middle East. So the game is like that. So Alexandria is before Cairo.
Yes,
but
this is exactly what I mean.
But Cairo is as a seat of power, and yes, that's why Alexandria managed to just preserve its kind of a status as a second, the capital, and that's why they have. And I think that there is a trend right now, which is a new capital and Alamein. So there is always this kind of way of thinking during the monarchy time and continued, and we are still copying or getting inspired by what happened before during the golden age, as we always say about the Egyptian economy, Egyptian lifestyle, and the cosmopolitanity. When I just mentioned something about the Italians, Armenians are the best in photography, and so you get the best of the world in their skills and the way of the industry they masters, and they are performing it here.
And artists, I mean, we cannot deny that the legends of Fairuz, Nelly, they came from Armenian origin.
Exactly.
But of course, they are now considered as purely Egyptians, but
they have nothing to do with it.
Armenian origin.
Exactly.
Let's return back, because unfortunately we're running out of time, and we want to focus a little bit on Khedive Cairo. What about the efforts exerted to preserve that place, and what's your image regarding this? How we can have both benefits, to have Khedive Cairo with all its features, and in the same time to modernize it in a way that does not touch its features?
Okay, but what I would like to just light a red light, or just raise a flag saying that this kind of facial decoration and the painting, etc., this is the weakest thing that you can ever do, because you need to do a lot of site interpretations. You need to just to go for finding a business model in order to circulate this kind of real estate venues, values, etc. There is a private company that is doing that perfectly well. And the idea is it's going to be not only limited to them, but it's going to be like an open game. But let me tell you one important thing. The thing that any building or any area would survive if it is functioning, if it got some role, but if you turn everything into like a museum, it would turn into an archaeological site, completely dead after 6 p.m. or even 4 p.m. At the end of the day, this is not what we want and what we are aspiring for. We need a vivid, living space, living heritage. It was, and it should continue. So what happened after the CBD Central Business District, immigrated from there going to other parts, because we are a multi-nuclear city, meaning having lots of centers, city centers, but definitely the new capital is absorbing everything in terms of the business and CBD and all the industrial parks. So what is going to happen? No, it's going to take it for good. But what is happening here, that we are taking or learning from the lessons from Madrid and Barcelona and all of these lovely cities, meaning that we're turning this into a creative city. So the concept of creative city and the creative city hub is bringing back the allure to the city, but as an industrial park for creative industries.
Let's make it a little bit more simple. To have another El Mu'izz Street, but not El Mu'izz Street.
No, no. This is not what I meant. If you wait a bit, I would explain clearly and fast.
Sure.
The game is like that. You need to have this as a destination for those living in the suburbs and the boundaries of the city and the compounds, and in order to just come and be able to see the essence of this kind of meaning and the essence of the civilization, how it was during the mid-century, 20th century, how it was, some facets from the European lifestyle, etc. And the creative industries, meaning that new designers, boutique hotel, all of these things in order to group within one place. In order to do that, you need to secure the investors to do that. You need to encourage the young designers to do that. You need to do it according to the concepts that is accepted by the ECOMOS UNESCO. We are not playing the game from scratch. Actually, we should start from where the others ended. So we have lots of UNESCO charters to follow. And at the end of the day, you need to have a designated area. Your designation is a big triangle. The head of the triangle is Ramses Square, which is a railway station, Tahrir, and Abdin Palace. And all the area in between is a designated area. And there is a buffer zone that is El Gala, and the area just close and tanging with Maspero area. These are the boundaries where you can just apply your own system and nobody would defy your rules. And in fact, the development would be moving well for the benefit and for the sake and for the organization of the state, the government, but definitely we cannot afford that, so it is played by others, but after we set the rules, because when you set the rules, they would comply, and you will definitely have a balanced environment, historical and protected, but active and productive.
To implement that on the ground, what do we need? I mean, of course, the state, but what about the private sector? What about, as you've kindly mentioned, benefiting from others' experiences in that?
Set your legal system first. Define the role of everybody else. The states in everywhere in the world right now, after Margaret Thatcher, they are doing the privatization. What is the privatization in action, in actual sense? That I am, as a country, maybe I lack the vision for the effective management. So I am just giving it, I'm lending it to the private sector, but I am setting the rules and I am making the quality control, securing the rights of the people because I have the ownership. So set the legal framework, which is the planning framework and the clear vision. Involve the people, because this is, at the end of the day, this is not the money of the government, this is not the money of the ruler, this is the money of the people of Egypt. And accordingly, you just have to put the strategy, the complete strategy, according to which everybody would come and then spend the money, make his own profits, but definitely without compromising the structural integrity, the cultural integrity, the meaning of the city. Learn from the mistakes of the Solidaire in Beirut, in Lebanon, learn from the mistakes of the others, and go for something like this. So at the end of the day, I need to see a national legal framework, which is the Charter of Khedive Cairo. Area Conservation Charter of Khedive Cairo, like the Merchant City in Glasgow. I've been saying this 20 years ago. For 20 years I've been saying that. I am waiting to see this in action and on the ground.
And it's going to be, inshallah, in the very near future.
Inshallah.
Well, Dr. Ahmed Sidqi, Urban Development and Heritage Management Consultant, thank you very much for your input, sir, and have a very good day.
Thank you very much.
Well, by this we come to the end of our episode. Stay tuned on Nile TV International always for more. Many thanks for watching. This was Nurmeen Abdurrahman.